Okay.
All right, go ahead.
When you joined the state council, were you a staff member or management or a student?
I just talked to my niece in Syracuse, but I could hear her, so something's the matter with your phone.
Okay, how about now?
Try it again.
Can you hear me now?
A little better, but not perfect.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yes, go ahead.
okay.
So when you joined the state council,
Yes.
what were you...
I tell you, it was a great part of the past for me, but things have changed.
Okay, were you a student or staff or management?
I was a supervising pharmacist at Ellis Hospital.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Same place that built a hotel in one.
Okay. And who did you know that made you want to advance in the state council?
You try it again.
Who did you meet that made you want to advance in the state council?
I think it said, who got me involved in the council? If that's the case, everything was like Bill Hotel. I also knew Lou Jeffrey and Faye Peck, Jim Skills, all people from the Northeast.
Uh-huh. Okay, good. Did you know many of the past presidents other than Bill Hotelan?
I knew everybody, of course, up until the time I moved to Florida, which was 1981.
Uh-huh. Okay. And what were they like?
Oh, real good people. All volunteers. It's a total mix. Like the Gil Simons and the Monchoras and the Lennox Hill, every place throughout the state is good.
Okay.
Concentration, of course, was downstate, but Buffalo, a little bit from Syracuse, and the Capital District where I was.
Yeah. What challenges did you see? What challenges did you see as president or staff or just member of the state council?
No, back in those days, staffing was an issue like everybody, except the colleges didn't teach hospital pharmacy. This was prior to. So what would happen is that you'd have to train everybody yourself once you get trained. A lot of the hospitals back then were actually drugstores in a hospital.
Ah, okay.
And that's how everything started. We had no budget, we just had a group of people that meet periodically. I can remember nothing negative about it. If the people if they were a pain in the ass, they wouldn't have been there. Because it's only people who wanted to see things go forward were there.
Okay. It sounds... That's interesting. I mean, so you had said it's all voluntary. So there was... How about membership dues? Was there a lot of dues?
I don't remember dues. It wasn't much. I'll tell you that there was no continuing education. But people came. We were in the Catskills for, going from one of the forest area to the next. We were in the Adirondacks, and those seemed to be the two areas that were mostly gone. I know that's changed. I think it's changed, but I used to love going to the Catskills. Of course, everybody from New York seemed to know where it was, so they just drove up.
Yeah. So the annual assembly, you remember actually, I'm looking at a picture of you and Tom O'Brien when you became president.
Yeah. Tom was from Cooperstown, and he was in a unique area because he was a member of the Northeastern Group. So we tried not to meet in his area during winter, but they were an arm, but they never totally got there. But Tom was active at the same time I was, as far as, being officers. I followed Kurt Kleiman.
Yes. I actually worked for Kurt when I first moved back east.
Followed me. And I think that brochure that you sent me, or it's in the council information, that is not right as far as the sequence of presidents.
Who followed you? I think Seymour didn't.
It was Cy Katz.
Yeah. And then Bernie Mel followed him.
What normally happened back then is you became secretary. Once you were a total asshole, you became president. And you became past president. So it was like a 3-year term. So it seemed to work out well back then.
Okay.
Now, one of the big things that we did, and I'm saying things because I know they're on your list, but they also came to my brain. We basically, as I said, we're volunteer, but our main goal was to tell everybody that there was a hospital pharmacist, and please do something about it. So we met with the deans, and we met with the TISNY, and we met with the New York State Council, in a group of 3 organizations. That's it. There was no consultant pharmacist in existence back then. There was no anything else in existence. That was it. So we would get together. I know I traveled down with Walter Singer, who was the dean of Albany, back and forth. We used to go to New York and meet and discuss. So, it was, what are you going to do, right? So also, one of my favorite things was the Board of Pharmacy. We had no representation and no hope of representation on the board. But I somehow got appointed and served on the board, but I served for about 3 or 4 years, and then I moved to Florida. But that was the best thing that ever happened, I think, for a lot of kids, That was basically our initial legislative branch. Even though we had a legislative committee and tried to get politicians, it's hard to talk to a politician when there's 2 other groups, the deans and the retailers, and yourself, talking to some type of politician. So there was no central voice. I don't even know if there is now, but there sure as hell wasn't then. But we had no voice because there was nothing taught at the college. There was no representation on the board, and they didn't have anybody trained to commit to a pharmacy that was in a hospital.
Okay. With the generational changes that we have today, the philosophy of many of the millennials now is to balance a lot more personal time with work time. I don't know if
Say that again?
millennials. Do you know, have you, your grandchildren?
Oh, okay, good. Well, that was always good.
Do you feel that they can move the council forward based upon their wanting more personal or private time versus work time? You said that when you were president, you had to work through a number of years.
But people was, you know, didn't really care about the council that much unless you harassed them or gave them programs to see. But don't you have mandatory CE now?
Yes, we do.
And doesn't that draw people out?
Well, actually, you can do mandatory CE sitting at home, looking on your computer with a Zoom call. I actually live in the Catskills myself now, and half the time I'm on a Zoom call getting an active live CE program that's giving me credit. So you don't have to be face to face.
Does the council put on CE programs?
Oh, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So doesn't that draw people out?
It helps, but there are other places that'll also give CE too.
True. But at least it'll be something that is in their field.
Uh-huh.
They care. I think, tell the truth, people cared more back then.
Yeah.
About their profession.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. So now, 50% of the people go one way and 50% go the other way. And you really don't know who's going to win both, you know? Sort of like Israel right now. We're the same way. And nobody is in charge, really. There may be a few crazy people around, but there's not, everything is just floating probably in a downward trend. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree.
So, what is an organization to do? Down here in Florida, they've always had CE. And I was so heavily involved in the council that when I moved down here, I told my wife I was not going to get involved in the state organization, and I never did. But I had to go to CE program. And I went to different times. A lot of retail, a lot of everything. And, you had the people who were falling asleep. You had the people who took the 6-hour lunch. It's a little crap. But as far as them caring and all that, I think it was better back then. Now, when we had the council meetings in the Catskills and the Adirondack, we had one hell of a crowd. There was a lot at that time, which I think got people, hospitality, drinking, whatever you want to call it. And the sales representative was there. We didn't bring it too far, but I think it may have come too far, for sure. I know at one time after I got out, they wanted to be sales and members. And I said, not while I'm alive. I mean, that's, So whatever. But we got people to come to the Adirondacks in New York City in the droves. I thought it was, besides the food and the free booze, a pretty good program that was put on. And it was put on in great surroundings. So in the Adirondacks, people could go, people could vote or do anything they wanted. Remember, you had to go CE, so you had programs, but you didn't have the CE hanging over your head.
So there was a
I
lot.
don't know what to tell you now. I mean, it's got to be a bitch.
Yeah, it's not terrible. There's all kinds of CE around, and you do have to have certain hours that are dedicated to law, certain hours that are dedicated to infectious diseases due to COVID, and certain hours dedicated to a specialty if you've gone ahead and done a specialty.
Yeah, well, you got specialties now up to Green.
Yeah.
It's in a hospital. Back then, we didn't have anything.
Yeah.
So it was a lot better situation. But we always talked about membership. What do we got to do? There's the entertainment value, and then there's the professional value. And we did both. Excellent. You know how great the Catskills are, and they had them around that. I mean, I guess they've been having some meetings in Saratoga.
Actually, the annual assembly is going to be in about 2 weeks in Saratoga Springs.
Now, how is that?
Yeah, actually, it is now twice the size because they've included now the residents from around the state and around the region, as well as the annual assembly with education for the members. So it winds up being...
We had students, but they weren't in the Grove because there was none practicing hospital pharmacy.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even the class part in hospital pharmacy. But I think it was the same problem all over. But for some reason, in New York, where there's always cost restraints, sometimes the practice doesn't get advanced like it should. Now, back in those days, you go to a meeting because they're going to do something different and new.
Yep.
Then we went through the times where, okay, let's do 20% cutback. I don't know what situation is now, but the cutback situation sort of killed everything. You know, why think about that if you're going to lose your job, you know?
Yeah, the staffing has always been on a pendulum. You're either too short or too long.
Yeah. No, now you have a full-time person.
We have a what?
Full-time secretary?
Yes, we have an executive director that we pay.
All right. That's full of after I got through. I remember the person, I can't remember his name, but he worked for John Coppola for a while at Maimonides.
Was that Knight?
I can't remember his name. I knew there was a Knight. I think it was a Buffalo. It was, who the guy was, I don't know. He could have been an attorney even. But he worked at Maimonides. He was the first paid staff.
Okay.
So, again, the thing that, back then it was easy, I guess, compared to what it is now. Everything was down to, the practice of prophecy was on the way up. It was at the ground floor. You couldn't go any lower. And now, the practice is higher, but nobody can afford it. So.
Well, back then, you talk about it, there was a lot of camaraderie, I guess, as well as professionalism, correct?
Yes, there was. Yes, there was. And it was, like, for example, if I went down to New York City, which was a big trip for me, 150 miles, we would have a meeting. And on top of that, I would say to Kurt, show me through the hospital. Give me a tour. And the same thing at Wilmington. So I was don't because I'm learning more about everything, you know. And I don't know if that motivation is there today.
Yeah.
Everything's like a cutback, you know. We're going in reverse. How's the impact of all these pharmacists been on New York?
Yeah.
You got a lot more pharmacists up there now, right?
Well, I'm retired now. I actually retired 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I worked at Mount Sinai under Bernie Mel.
Good.
I was at Sinai for 30 years. I actually worked for Seymour, Bernie, and Kurt, all three of them.
Well, I'll tell you, they were all great people back then. Those were down history something. But it's people like that who wanted to give you a tour, to tell you their operation, and to go to a meeting. The hospital may have given us a day off, but they really never paid us, per se, to do anything. But people wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Because they were in a growing situation. It's like going to, how is the ASHP clinical review meeting now? Have you been to that?
I haven't been in it for a while, but it's gotten so big. It's 20 to 30,000 pharmacists in one location.
Oh, wow.
And it's and there's only like a couple of locations that can actually fit that many people, because it's so large.
Yeah. That's too much. When that thing started, the same people who were in the council, like Bill O'Taylor and Lou Jeffries, and the gang from New York, they were involved in both. But it was, once again, in the infant stages. So it was a lot easier. I keep saying that, but it still was. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do now because nobody gives a shit about life, much less farming.
Okay.
Huh?
No, I'm just.
Is it the same way up there?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes.
Yeah, it's the same way over. But the council was great back then, before all of this stuff. And again, once again, we were on the bottom floor with nobody to talk to other than to say, here we are. So it was easy in any way. But I think the most I got out of it was, personally, is learning from my peers and the camaraderie. I had a very important job, just like we had in Albany. And I was the tender of the booze. So I would take them home to my house, and then every other month I'd take them to wherever we were meeting. But that was my job. And I think the drink helped a little bit. Then we went out to eat. But it was, I don't know if I'm getting it across, a totally different scenario, which was easy back then. We didn't feel it was easy back then, but compared to now.
Yes, it was very different. As I've talked to each of the presidents through the years, I see the differences that occurred from the very beginning to now.
Yeah. Well, you probably talked to everybody. They gave you about the same answer.
You were breaking up a bit there.
When you talk to the other past presidents, I know there's a lot of them that are dead, but are you getting similar? How do you summarize everything?
Unfortunately, I didn't get too many. Most of the presidents from the 70s, when you were there, have passed.
Right.
I mean, I worked closely with Ray Sandusky, Seymour Katz, Kurt Kleinman, Bernie Mell. They're all gone. Tom O'Brien, I spent a lot.
Those people were truly very active.
Oh, yeah.
In care.
Seymour was the one that really got me started going in the New York City chapter. And from there, I moved up.
The directors were getting some help, and so they wanted to promote the staff, because you didn't get a staff unless they had previously practiced all retail. So you wanted them to learn, so it was easier for you and them. And now they come out with the Farm B for everybody. I don't know if that's good or bad, but...
No, actually, it's good because they train them, and then after that, you've got the postgraduate residency, which also gets them ready to be in a hospital.
Okay, well, I did a residency at Thomas Jefferson in 1866. And they ended up getting a master's at Philadelphia College of Pharmacy in hospital pharmacy of all things. And then shortly thereafter, the Farm B came out. That was before me, so.
Yeah.
But the residency that I went through was probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
I agree. Mine was too.
Because, at Jefferson, we worked every fifth day. And if it happened to be the night before, you worked the next day. And when you did it, you were in charge of central supply, respiratory therapy, a couple other departments, including the morgue. So we were dispensing bodies. We were checking codes at 2 o'clock in the morning. As you know, the Jewish faith had to be buried quickly by the next day. So those little things just get you going,
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, I don't think anybody's getting going. What are you doing for excitement now that you're retired?
Actually, I'm contacting all the past presidents. That's my big excitement.
You got stuck, huh?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Actually, it's pretty good. Sadly, I can only relate to my era and the people that were there. And it was a good time. It was a better time than in the 80s. The 60s and the 70s, especially the 70s, were at the time of birth for hospital pharmacy. It was good to be part of that. Now it seems to me like it's a time for an abortion.
I got involved in the 1980s. I graduated in 77, moved back to New York in 1980, got involved in the state council in the early 80s, and worked my way up. I was president in 2001. So
Okay.
I can
It's a
see...
long time ago.
Yeah, it's almost a quarter century. But I could...
Right.
I could see a lot of movement now where there's residencies that are people coming out and the whole practice is changing. And it's either going to get really, really great.
Like you consider it going backwards at a small rate or a larger rate?
I think it's either going to go, it's going to get taken away from us, or we're going to go in a different direction, which is what we need to do.
Yeah.
Because right now, computers and AI can do a lot of the stuff that we don't need to do anymore.
Right. Well, it's interesting in retail, where something similar happened with the pandemic. They wanted you to fill prescriptions, but also take your blood pressure and give them a vaccine without the additional staff. And that seems to be, could we say, blowing up in everybody's face. You can't do everything. I mean, Walgreens is going down the toilet, and CVS is going down the toilet. Seems like retail pharmacy will come back as an independent. That's my observation. But hospital pharmacy, I don't know. My daughter graduated 30 years after I did pharmacy school. Ended up getting her PharmD, and she's because of the oncology outpatient at a local hospital. And she has a lot of responsibility. And the big problem is I'm trying to find people who know what they're doing, much less just trying to find people. And there should be a lot of pharmacists. I don't know where the hell they are. But I think the quality of pharmacists has gone down from what I see. I don't know about you, but down here, the quality is not there.
I think
we didn't open new pharmacy schools, but I know you guys did. I don't know how that... It's got to have a negative effect longer term. Sadly, pharmacies in the same boat that the goddamn world is in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think it depends on the people. You got to have the right people, in which case you're going to have a great person or not.
Well, luckily back then, I would rather take somebody and train them to the way it should be done, rather than get them from someplace where maybe it wasn't done properly.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that's working now. Especially with the attitude that nobody gives a shit about nothing. So back then, everybody gave a shit about everything.
Yeah.
I don't know what any organization's going to do, much less the council. It's a toughie.
Yes.
And with the election coming up, it's going to get worse. Yeah.
Okay, Bentley, I've had you on for almost a half hour. I'm going to let you.
Wow.
I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
Been talking to Bentley Johnson.
Called, and I'm glad I talked to you. Hopefully, I gave you a little bit of info from the 70s.
Oh, absolutely. I was. You gave me a lot of what I was looking for from the early days. Again, thank you again. It was Bentley Johnson, president from 1977.
All right. Well, listen, one thing I should mention, because I moved out of the